we are, Ohio, sure, it went red for Trump, right? It went red for Bernie Moreno. Good Lord.
Yes.
But, I mean, we're like 45% vote in a good direction, right? And our representatives in the state and federal House and Senate and things are in the neighborhood of 70% Republican right now. That's because of the illegal gerrymandering. Everybody else in the room knows that, which puts you about 80% ahead of anyone else who doesn't. They're absolutely cheating. I mean, like, they also know how much they suck, and that's why they have to cheat. Right? If they were confident in their ability to make decisions that build a better America, or build a better Ohio, or build a better city down the street, they wouldn't have to cheat, because they'd be like, yeah, we got good ideas, and people like them. But people don't like them. They like to feel like they're winning. They like to feel like they're wearing the right sports jersey when they show up to vote. Well, that's stupid. Because if somebody sucks, no matter what their party is, I'm going to tell them to suck.
Yeah.
So no matter how these maps turn out, I'm not leaving this community behind. Because you gave me hope, and I need that to keep going. And I want to be a part of the thing that we're building here, in this region and in this state, with people like us who are standing up and saying that we're sick of this, and we want something better. So I can't guarantee that I'm going to run to be your representative, because cheaters be cheating, but I will be a part of your community, and I will always be reachable. I will always care about your life, because when your life is better, my life is better. And my son's life is better. So thank you all for being here, and I'm sorry if I don't get to run to be your rep.
I've also spent more time with the governor of Minnesota than I have with my own representative, despite the fact that I have emailed him and called him.
And I've emailed him, called him, and visited his office, and I still got to meet Tim Walls instead, which is a good thing.
Testing. I have met Tim Walls exactly the same number of times as I have met Troy Balderson. And when I met Tim, he actually had a conversation with me. I met Troy just before a couple of parades. Running against that man for over a year, met him twice. And speaking of running away, I'm sorry to co-opt for a second here, but you mentioned running Steve Cyrus out, trying to run Balderson out. I don't know if you've seen the video of him Balderson literally running from the man asking about why he would vote for Jim Jerrad for speaker. There's a video of him literally running from him and going into a Republican office and standing in a corner staring at a wall.
He felt at home there.
One time I asked him to get a picture with me while we were running against each other for a little unity, and he got super pissed at me and ran away.
Well, we'll get a picture with him. So why is it important for you to be here? I've told you my reason. Leah, Greg, Jerrad, all told you theirs. Why is it important for you to be here? You all got in the car. Some of you drove more than an hour to be here to listen to me talk. You didn't have any idea who I was. So why is it important for you to scared? Are you worried? Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you angry? Yes, there's one of them for sure.
They're being terrorized. They're being lied to.
Taxation without representation.
So if you use, you would need to explain.
Oh, yeah, so if you're following along on from the QR code pop up on your phone, you've been able to type in, and then it would have shown up here. That way we can collectively take this to Larson and show him why you all showed up and he didn't.
This is democracy. Participate.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. So I host this. I know it wasn't coming. I've spent lots of time and energy trying to put this together. So I host a town hall without town hall. Why host a town hall without Jerrad? Well, yeah, it's also without Tim Walls. So I think I talk about him, so it is. Because when I met Tim Walls, I learned two things. One, he is exactly who I think he is. There's no on-camera Tim Walls and off-camera Tim Walls. He is the genuine human being you all believe him to be. And the second thing he said that kind of stuck with me was, there's 3 branches of government. Which is a fact, but it's not the truth. Because there's a 4th branch, us. And we deserve to be heard, whether or not our congressman wants to listen. So, thank you all very much for coming. Well, I did press all the buttons on the side. And finally got a response. Tell me he's not happy. So what's Troy doing in Congress? He's not answering emails or phone calls or responding to me on Twitter or returning, all the messages from when I showed his office. So what's he doing? Does anybody know? No. Because he won't tell us. He's the most email public event. He's doing nothing. The little thing we can do is go for his voting record, right? So let's go.
Good. He's a trumper.
Okay, cool. I gotta yell. Can you hear me? Okay, hey everybody. Whoa, there we go. All right. So we're going to talk about Troy Balderson's voting record, specifically first related to really one of the worst human beings on the planet, Elon Musk. And this insane effort to destroy our government and destroy our society. So what do we got up here? Before we, all of you are pretty clued in here on whether or not Ohio has lost more or less than $300 million of government funding to DOGE. But I want to say something real quick about our buddy here, and this is why I've got my torch, my pitchfork up here. Because I think, like a lot of us, I am pretty mad about what's going on here. And I wanted to make sure that I said what was in my heart and my mind. So I wrote down a few notes here because for as much as I got up in front of people 7 and 8 years ago to run for Congress, I'm not that used to doing it, and I get a little nervous, which I think a lot of us do. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to stand up, it's hard to speak out, but geez Louise, we need to do it right now. And the thing that gets me about Musk, and the reason that I stood up there at an indivisible meeting on February 8th and said, come on, let's go out to Tesla and let's tell these guys to get out of our lives and get out of our government, is because it is a direct attack what Musk aided, and people like Balderson are complicit. He's attacked. We are under attack. Our country is under attack. We're under attack. Our government is under attack. And this is the government and the society that we and our ancestors have built over generations. And who the? Does he think he is to come in and tear it all apart?
Yeah.
We We have got, so that's why we're saying, even if it's scary, even if it's hard to say no, not now, not ever, that we do not want government by Donald Trump. Of Elon Musk. For tech billionaires. No, we go back to Abraham Lincoln's vision that he said back in the 1860s to say government of the people, us, right? Government of the people, for the people, by the people. And Troy Walterson and the rest of the leaders in Congress are betraying us, and they betrayed their oaths, Jerrad, haven't they? An oath that you took as a military person to defend and uphold the Constitution. Even me, as a Peace Corps volunteer when I was 22 years old, I had to take the same oath anybody who works for the federal government takes it to uphold the Constitution. And this guy down there is an elected member of Congress, and he can't even do it. And if he's going to keep betraying and keep getting faithless, then we only have one choice, and that is to kick him out. Let's see those hands who said that we've lost more than $300 million in funding. That's right. Those cuts in Ohio. Look at that figure from the Department of Agriculture. $13,254,230 lost. And Health and Human Services, and holy cow, if we don't want that there's a crisis in healthcare in this county, in this state, in this country, $373 million, $385,718 from Health and Human Services. Holy cow. Boo! That's right.
Shame.
Right? When, and, you know, and looking at that Department of Agriculture money, we all know that farmers in America and in Fairfield County and in Ohio and in this district feed the world. And they have for generations. And now, Elon Musk and all of his idiocy and witlessness decides to go in there and just cut the money. And then what? Then he's going to decide if the farmers get subsidies so that they can stand on their feet? Bullshit. Who is going to trust Elon Musk to come in for our communities when he can't even take care, when he doesn't even know how many kids he has? And the kids that he does have, he won't talk to because they're trans. Give me a break. This guy is not for us, and so this is what's going on. Trump and Doge cut funding, $1 million for programs that provide schools and food banks the ability to purchase produce from our farms. Ohio lost $420 million for a local food purchase program that helps feed people with Ohio-grown products. And those cuts leave Ohio farmers who use the program scrabbling to find other buyers in schools and food banks. Okay, so that's one thing that we got to work against. What's the next thing? But, okay, right? There's one person who's not getting any cuts. The corruption, that's right, boo. The corruption that this guy represents is incredible. And you know what? It's corruption in two ways, right? Sure, he gets all these amazing contracts, right? Still, I mean, he shouldn't get any contracts, he should be in jail. But he gets billions in subsidies. But I gotta say, do you not think that he's getting something even more valuable to him?
Our data.
Our data. All the information about our private lives, and especially about how our government works. All those hidden systems, all the code that makes things work, that gives us our tax refunds, that gives us our Social Security checks. He has it all. And the thing is about now that he's saying, oh, I'm stepping back. Stepping back so he can go to his computer and check out all the information. And now he has our information, our data, that he's going to use to power his insane vision. And now I'm starting to sound like a crazy person, but I think his vision of artificial intelligence that he thinks he's going to be able to use to control the world. Holy cow, this guy is a nut job. All right, so let's toss him out. Thank you very much. This is where, and Troy Walterson, he He supports this whole thing, right? Well, here, I just gave it away. What's your vote? Does Troy Alderson approve of Doge? Yeah. Well, yes, for that 100%. You all know, right? And I think, but this is the thing about Troy. Troy, where are you? Troy, you're so cute. You're so cute. He tries to have it both ways, everybody, doesn't he? And in a rare moment of candor that was caught on film, I believe, right? He had something to say about his own role as a congressional representative. Let's see that.
Congress, Republicans are lining up to support Doge and its mission.
I'm excited about the Doge. I joined the Doge caucus. This is something that we haven't done for a long time. And there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with the that we have in place.
Yet Alderson supports funds from the CHIPS Act getting quickly appropriated to build the Intel plant, which is in his district.
Sounds like he supports Doge, right? And yet, didn't he say something about also Congress having a role? And it was like the smallest concession to his role as a congressman. And yet, he got slapped down. So here we go. The Dispatch reporting on a post on social media, I fully support President Trump's agenda to rein in our bloated federal government and put Americans first. The only person bloated in this picture is Donald Trump. Now it's time for Congress to act. Congress. It's time for us at Capitol Hill to make permanent as executive actions, ensuring continuity of public policy from one administration to the next, when we know that the job of Congress is to stand up against this crap that Musk and Trump are pulling and assert their authority under the Constitution to rein this in. Sorry, Shirley. You're on the wrong side of this. All right, Shirley, take it away. Right?
Test.
Yes.
So, how did Troy vote on Chips and Science? I'll give you a second or two to answer here. All right. A couple of you know. Hit it. Yeah, you can reach out if you want. So, I will jump ahead here if, I don't know how much time is enough time. I've never taken any public surveys before. Okay. All right. Well, he voted for the Chips and Science Act, so we're asking why. It is the one thing I'll give that man, he did well. But right next to that, he voted against the PACT Act. He voted against the infrastructure. And that's not right. I don't know what I'm doing. So the Chips and Science Act, was kind of the foundation of bringing back manufacturing in the U.S. of important technology that other countries have been able to build for us and therefore use that technology to advance themselves beyond our capabilities, which is really dangerous. So the foundations of the Chips and Science Act was really important. But a lot of you guys, in Liberty County, I heard all you cheer earlier, recognize that all of your property values just skyrocketed. And we all know that was because the Intel plant that was supposed to come in and provide billions of jobs and make your futures perfect and bright. That along with 100 data centers that will bleach your groundwater dry and not care about your communities. But the fact is that Intel plant has now been nixed until at least 2030, but before that it was nixed until 2025, and before that it was nixed until 2026. I'm sure it's mixed some years up, but that's fine, you all get my point. The fact is that it's probably never happened. Intel just laid off a bunch of people, like 22% of their employees like 2 days ago. I feel confident that Intel plant's not coming. So we can vote for the Chips and Sciences Act all we want, but then when he comes in immediately behind that and Trump wants to cut the Chips and Sciences Act and he votes right along with Trump on everything he says it does, the fact is he never supported it in the first place. You know, I get changing your mind in a rational way. Everybody is fully capable, and I think it's a reasonable thing to do to change your mind. But when you change it from something that supports Americans and families to something that doesn't, I don't think you got there through rationale.
Keep over country.
Well, sure. I mean, that's what all of them want, right? power to a wannabe king. Like, I've never met any kings, but I can imagine that this would be one of the dumbest.
Yeah.
I swear I've never heard that man talk and be like, yeah, that's my guy.
I'm still waiting for him to finish his sentence.
Yeah.
Can't even put a sentence together.
Yeah, that's true. This is you now. Alright, one more shut up.
Alright, this one's mine, this one's tariffs. So, vehicles that are built in Mexico and Canada are subject to these tariffs, leading to increased production and the potential job impacts related to the industries within this district. According to Ohio Capital Journal, Ohio could take a $6 billion hit from these tariffs. The tariff impact on agriculture. This is actually a quote. I don't have it up.
When you talk about Canada, China, and Mexico, those are the three biggest trading partners for almost everything we grow in Ohio. In fact, 20% of the farmer's income comes from export. So the fifth of the farmer's bottom line comes from what we ship out. Ty Higgins, American Farm Bureau. That's not me. That's somebody in the industry that says this is 20%.
So, what's old Troy think? Does he approve? Does he disapprove? How can you do that?
You're gonna need to update that slide because China just announced they're not gonna take hogs. Ohio is the 7th largest hog producer in the nation.
You know, I kind of thought when I put tariffs in there that maybe they would stop with changing the tariff policy, and I just decided, well, I'm just going to kind of run with the most of it. Because, you know, it's tariffs are on, tariffs are off, tariffs are on, tariffs are more, tariffs are 145, tariffs are coming down.
Liar.
Yeah. I'll be here. I'll be here. Nobody else will be able to talk. All right, let's see what he says.
Turning to policy for a moment, retaliatory tariffs from President Trump's trade policy have hit Ohio farmers hard. At the same time, steel manufacturers in the state stand to gain from that policy. Do you support it?
Support the whole tariff issue?
Support President Trump's trade policy?
I don't support all of it, no. I'm a farmer. I had farmed in my past. I mean, that's what we did as a family. So I understand. I can go get in that combine with the farmer. That's the beauty of what I can do in this district. I don't believe what's happening on farmers right now. I don't support that. It's important that they reach out to me and have that communication with me. Pork producers are really concerned about the tariff issue right now also. So those people, what matters is the 12th congressional district. That's why I'm going it's going to affect the 12th congressional district, then it's going to affect me and concern me.
Do you think that you're really for the 12th congressional district then?
I don't know the whole impact yet. I think some segments of it are. Obviously, the ag is being impacted right now greatly. But as far as having all issues, I'm not aware. But farming is very big. It's the #1 industry in the state of Ohio. And we forget that sometimes. So right now, understanding ag issues, I've grown up with ag issues, that's what I'm standing with right now. And that's my #1 priority.
Oh, wait. How about 2018 congressional candidate Troy Morrison? So let's see what Congressman Troy Morrison has to say. I won't read his words because I don't want you to boo me. So he's apparently very excited for that because he can't wait
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jerrad,
All right. So, well, geez, you guys are getting much now. Does Troy Bulmerson vote for Ohio workers' rights? While you guys are answering that, I want to address something he said there. I don't know Troy's history on. I do know that he inherited a car dealership from his dad, and his brother had issues, and they went away. Well, and somebody told me that he was never. They haven't farmed on that land in years and years and years. They just never that's farm.
I didn't mind his thing when I was looking, but he said he was a farmer, so.
Well, I'm from the moon. Must be true, it said. So, I was never a farmer. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Appalachian down in Athens County. Not Athens proper. Athens is fancy compared to Waco. But, I baled hay back when it was less automated and sucked real bad. I now have a garden. I have chickens. That's why I don't worry about hay prices. That's why I can vote not for Trump. I'm not a farmer. I never pretend to be anything I'm not. I'm just some guy who decided to run for Congress because I got tired of waking up sad, so I started waking up angry. And I did something about it. I've not experienced everything. I don't have every perspective in the entire world inside my head. All I do know when I wake up in the morning what is right and what is wrong. And I do know how I want to be treated, and I try to treat other people that way. But sometimes you gotta. Don't take away from that. Sometimes you should treat people like they earn. So, does Troy Bulmerson vote for workers' rights? The answer is no. Nailed that one. Yeah. So he has a rating of 10%, 2023 in the AFL-CIO. Overall rating of 22%, but in his defense, that's better than most people's 6%, Republicans of Ohio. Yeah, good job, man. Now, I don't know if any of you guys, some of you do, sure, heard me talk about it a million times, but if you don't know my history, I grew up really poor, like I said, down in Athens County, and I grew up and I joined the military to escape poverty largely, and because it was that or working in a factory, and I didn't want to do that. It just didn't seem as adventurous as seeing the world. After I got out, I kind of wandered around aimlessly, and eventually I landed as a janitor in a factory. And I was a janitor in a factory for a long time, so I know what it's like to work an unappreciated job. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. I didn't inherit a bright future from my family. I know what it's like to be at work. I'm not fancy, I never have been, I probably never will be. I'm going to stand up here, I'm going to make mistakes while I run for Congress. I'm just going to be a damn human. The only thing I'm getting right all the time. 100% of the time, I am a human.
That says a lot.
All right, now I'm going to pass it to Leah.
All right, what's Leah doing? Does Troy
Bulmerson support funding Medicaid? Yes or no? Looks like everybody's got it right.
I was in the audience then.
No.
They were wrong about the Ships and Sciences Act.
We got it once. Exactly. He has health plan for life. Pretty smooth. So Bulmerson voted recently in the House for the federal budget that cut $880 billion from Medicaid. Anywhere from 25 to 30% of people in this district rely on Medicaid for their health care. That includes a total of roughly 188,000 people in our district, in these 12 counties, which I got wrong again. You may have called one, so sorry. So, that includes 65,000 children directly through Medicaid in our congressional district. That's not nationwide. That's kids in our counties. It supports 25,600 people with disabilities in our counties. 1 out of every $5 in healthcare spending is for Medicaid. So we all understand what Ronald Reagan didn't quite get right, right? Trickle down is not millionaires are going to trickle their incentives down to us poor workers and people who rely on the safety net. No, we understand trickle down means when millionaires get tax breaks because they cut Medicaid, that means it trickles down and your rural hospital closes. There are 42,300 people in our district that only have health care coverage thanks to the Affordable Care Act. And the repeal of Obamacare, as they call it, hasn't gotten through the House yet, but Balderson has already indicated his approval of that, to repeal the ACA expansion, to repeal the ACA. They're responsible, yeah. And so 35% of the children in D12 basically rely on Medicaid or CHIP for their health insurance. That's nearly one in 3 kids in our 12 counties. 1 in 3 kids. So if you look at each other, your kid or your grandkid or your grandkid or your nephew, your niece is relying on Medicaid to keep them healthy and strong. And in this kind of environment, they need to be as healthy and strong as we can make them, for sure. So, when Troy was in the State House, he was all for subjecting Medicaid recipients to drug testing. He was all for having Medicaid recipients, again, about 25,000 people in our district who have disabilities. He was in favor of forcing them to work, regardless of their situations. He voted against the Medicaid expansion while he was in the state legislature, putting 500,000 people statewide at risk of losing their Medicaid. Again, how many in our district? 188,000 people in our district at risk of losing Medicaid. So, in Congress, in 2019, he voted against H.R. 986, protecting Americans with pre-existing conditions. The hugest part of Obamacare that everyone loved, even if they didn't realize it was Obamacare. For those of us with chronic diseases like arthritis, diabetes, and believe me, our district has some real issues with health. I'm one of them. People with chronic conditions cannot find health care coverage without Obamacare, without the Affordable Care Act. But Balderson, lifetime of health care for him, who cares? He promised in 2018 that he would never use anything to Social Security or Medicare. But as recently as this year, he indicated that he was also in favor of potentially cutting those programs, our entitled programs that we pay tax dollars into. So,
All right. Now, if you give it away.
All right, I didn't get this one way earlier. Did Balderson vote for the PACT Act? This means rude to say yes. People can vote online too, so I'll sign out you guys, but
Explain PACT Act.
yeah, I certainly will. The PACT Act was named or was created because of a man named Keith Roberts, who developed a rare rare form of cancer after his deployment to, I believe it was Iraq. Iraq or Afghanistan. He came back and he developed this rare form of cancer and had to fight the VA for benefits until the day he died. I actually just got to listen to his story a few days ago. His mother-in-law was in a meeting I was in, and she talked about his last days of life, his last weeks of life, and how much pain he was in, and how they couldn't get any help from the VA. Couldn't get painkillers, couldn't get a hospital bed, and he didn't have the strength to get into a regular bed, so he spent a lot of time laying and sleeping on the floor. Where he laid and he slept until the last days of his life, the last day of his life. As he lay dying, they couldn't lift him into a bed, they thought. So they went and they grabbed the only thing they could find to wrap him in to keep him warm as he lay dying, and it was his daughter's Little Mermaid sheets off her bed. Sorry, I'm a little emotional about it.
You're doing good.
Yeah. It's the worst part of me. They did eventually get him into the bed, but he died that day, wrapped in his daughter's Little Mermaid sheets, without ever getting help from the VA. And that's where the PACT Act came from. It's a guarantee of medical benefits to veterans who are returning from war, who develop a specific set of cancers that are really rare, that they can link directly back to the toxic burn hits from the war on terror. I have, as a veteran myself, my first couple of years I was a flight deck fueler on an aircraft carrier, so I was never exposed to burn pits. My last 3 years I became a meteorologist and oceanographer, and I was shore-based in Naples, Italy, which is awful. But I have friends who were there. I have friends who were shot. I have family who was there. My sister served in Afghanistan. If she got this cancer, she would have had to fight the VA just like they did. And the PACT Act guarantees that there will be no fight. You get that cancer, you get up. Period. Troy Bolton, vote against it. I don't. You know, one of the hardest parts about running for Congress and being in rooms like this is like sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. So I hope that there are people out here in this audience or watching on YouTube or one of the live streams or watch this video later who doesn't feel like they're going to agree with me on everything. That's fine. I mean, that's the foundations of democracy, right? We get together and we talk. We don't pretend that everybody's extremist. We don't pretend that we can't have different opinions. We get rid of these fucking Puritans. Stop pretending that we as individuals know everything there is to know. We're always going to get it right. Everybody should listen to us when they're wrong and dumb. Because sometimes I'm wrong and dumb. And that's okay. No? You asked me about string theory earlier. But the fact is that this is something that I think everyone can get behind, regardless of whether you like to celebrate partisan politics or not, is that the people who defend the safety and sovereignty of this nation shouldn't die after their kids' bed sheets. And I have seen so many people, I'm pretty active on social media, and so many people have told me I was wrong and he voted yes for this. And I'm like, dude, it's available right there on the internet. You can go look on congressional websites. Everybody's never voted for it.
But they just tell you that.
And then go like, yeah. Because the truth is scary. And acknowledging that you can be wrong is probably one of the hardest things any human can do, psychologically speaking. Studies have shown that if you present someone evidence they're wrong, they're actually more likely to double down on the thing they already believe, which is the weirdest shit in the world to me. Because if you're wrong and then you learn something and you change your mind, then you just be right. If you don't change, you're wrong forever, and that sucks. So, next we're going to talk about the Save Act. Yeah. How did Troy vote on the SAFE Act? Yeah, it's, we focus a lot on the federal government, but while this is going on, I just want to take a brief moment to touch on state level politics, because man, there's a lot going on, and it's almost crazier than at the federal level, because nobody ever pays attention to it. And in the budget bill right now, we're getting a $600 million loan with interest we're going to pay for a Browns stadium. And if you have to ask yourself why, look at the owners of the Browns and how much money they give to the candidates who are currently in office. And you're like, oh, that makes some swing. And then you get online and you watch the Dark Money documentary that just came out from HBO about why it's houses. And the ABC scandal is costing us $130,000 a day.
What about public schools?
Yes, and while we're getting a $600 million loan for a Browns stadium, they're cutting funding by 2/3 for our public school system. The numbers are the craziest part. They're cutting it down by 2/3 to $223 million, while last year they gave $1 billion to private school vouchers. And here's maybe a little known fact, but in Ohio's Constitution actually makes it illegal to give money to private religious schools from the state education fund. I'm not sure how they can justify this. Like, the best thing I can do is they're like, well, it's not out of the education fund because we cut that to nothing. And we're just doing that this fund over here to be made up because it suits my needs. It's insane. And no one knows it's happening. Like I said earlier, just by being in this room, you're probably far more informed than 90 to 95% of people you know.
Where's the video today?
Right.
Yeah. Well, all right. How did Troy Gorson vote on the SAFE Act? He voted for the SAFE Act. Yes. Some people have way more faith in this man than I feel like he's earned. That's really interesting. The SAFE Act, in case you don't know, is actually something that it's supposed to protect voters' rights, right? Or keep our elections safe. But realistically, all it does is make it harder for the everyday person to vote. And right along with gerrymandering, if you're scared of people's voices, you're probably not popular. Probably not right. It's funny because I remember when I was a little kid, even though Republicans keep winning Ohio over the last, since 2012, after Obama. At the state level, one of that is they've been cheating and gerrymandering. You can't gerrymander statewide, but it does affect statewide because of apathy and other psychological effects that we won't go into right now. But in like second and third grade, my teacher always had this poster on the wall that said, "What's popular isn't always right, and what's right isn't always popular."
Right.
So like they can win all they want, but it doesn't mean that they're right. The SAFE Act, its goal is to prove you're a U.S. citizen before you can vote, which requires you to have the same name that's on your birth certificate or some sort of paper trail that leads to the current name that you have.
Married women?
That's right.
Married women?
Yeah, especially, if you look at the statistics, women with degrees generally vote more left-leaning. And the best way you can win is just to make it so they can't vote. Right? It's easy. Gerrymander, and then you just make people not be able to vote. You just win every time.
Voter suppression.
Yes. Voter suppression is the goal. And we can pretend it's about citizens, or non-citizens voting in U.S. elections all we want, but that shit is fake. Fake. If you're watching this video, or you're a conservative in this audience, or out there in the world that believes that it's real, check. 30 seconds worth of effort, you will realize you've been wrong forever, and then you will believe it more.
Even the Heritage Foundation can't find voter fraud.
Even Devich can't find any evidence of fraud in our government. Where are all the arrests except the judge yesterday?
Right, last vote.
Yeah.
That works. You're gonna be a poll worker and you'll see how much security there is, how many checks.
Right.
Yeah. I was at, in case you guys didn't hear, she said, go be a poll worker and you will see how much safety there is around you. And I've talked to a poll worker, I've never been a poll worker, but I talked to them, and my significant other went today, and she got trained to be a poll worker, and she didn't. Yeah. But none of that compares to how easy it is to spread bullshit on the internet. Right? I saw a wheel suitcase off from under a table. Yes, in that 2-second video clip, you did see that. Yes, but a judge saw it along with the hours of context leading up to that moment and decided that you were wrong. Sorry, sitting in the front seat of your truck making a TikTok video doesn't make you an expert on watching videos. Do you approve of the job that Troy Watterson is doing in Congress? Yes, sir. Yes, 100%.
Alright, ladies, let's turn our microphone on and we'll take it from there. Alright, so what's a town hall if we don't hear from you? You sat here for the last hour listening to us, and now we want to hear from you. So Leah and I will be running around, and if you have a story, a question, something to say, we want to hear it. Because it's a town hall, damn it, and we're going to say what we want to say.
Well, I'm a retired college professor, so you'll have to see where I'm coming from. But I am really frightened about the state of higher education in the United States. Mr. Trump and his colleagues are out to get him. Boo, boo.
I was going to mention SB1 during my talk on Intel, and I completely slipped my mind because I just wing everything. I don't know what to say before I say it, which one day is a pain in the ass. But it's really interesting as, my entire life, I was, I don't even have an associate's degree. I don't have a degree in anything. I went to a tech school, and now I'm a software engineer. I was a meteorologist in the military. And if you go all the way back to when I was a little kid trying to figure out why my car could jump across the little thing after the ramp, studying physics. I've always been a scientist my entire life. I love science. I love the complexity of the world. It intrigues me. Yeah. And the attacks on our basic understanding of what's real in the world is insane. When we're growing up, we're told that we can be anything, that we should be anything, we should go to school, we should pay attention, we should become biologists and physicists and car mechanics, which, by the way, everything in the world is science. An engine wouldn't work without science. You couldn't fix an engine without a basic understanding of how it works, which is engineering, which is science. But now we're telling our kids that you don't have to believe that person who has studied their entire life to understand the thing that you don't understand at all. I don't know if you guys know anything about the Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah. So if you don't know, the Dunning-Kruger effect is basically a reverse bell curve. When someone knows absolutely nothing about a subject, they think that they know slightly more than an expert knows. And it's a real phenomenon. It's been studied many times. But as you begin to learn about a subject, your thought that you understand it begins to go down. You realize you don't know shit about anything. And eventually you hit a point where you do start to actually know things, and that curve starts to go back up until eventually you become an actual expert and you're confident in your expertise. This isn't a measure of actual knowledge, it's a measurement of you believe you have knowledge. So a person who is completely ignorant on a subject believes that they know slightly more than a person who's an actual expert. And I don't get to pull this joke out very often, so I'm going to tell it right now for the most people I ever have. I always like to say that I know more about the Dunning-Kruger effect than anybody else knows. If you don't get that, I'm sorry.
We're from. Thank you. We've spent our lives in public education in southeastern Ohio. And what is happening in our state to public education is terrible. I mean, and it was mentioned earlier, not enough people are paying attention to that. We currently live in Pickerington. We have petitions aboard there over and over, and sadly they're not part of the Vouchers for Ohio lawsuit, which I think every school district in the state of Ohio should be part of that. So, public education, that's another, it's like voter suppression, and if you get rid of the bedrock of our democracy, which I believe is public education, well, that's another way to have the government controlled by just a few people. So, again, Jerrad, you said it best. I'm speaking to the choir here. But if we can get that word out to more and more people, the $1 billion that was given in the last year to private entities without any accountability is terrible. So that, and the other thing that I think, Troy, I'd like to say to you is, the fact that citizens are being taken off the street. Right. And you're up there, and you're not doing anything about it. When are you going to work with that class? And we're tired of it, and we're going to get you out of the office.
Vote him out! Vote him out! Vote him out!
Vote him out. Vote him out.
Good afternoon. I'm a constituent, Troy, and I have delivered more letters to your office and sent you more emails. I've worked on and around you for more than 20 years, sometimes favorably, but this time I have just about had it. I know that you know that what's happening is wrong. This is not a right, this is not a left issue, this is a right, and this is a wrong issue. You have and have taken a sworn duty to uphold the Constitution. You have an Article 1 constitutional duty to uphold the law of the separation of duties between the power of the branches of government, known as the checks and balances. You are sitting in Congress while President Trump is undertaking a coup. You have a constitutional duty in Congress to exercise your authority. Musk has been given unfettered control, seizing government, taking our data, while he and his minions access all of our government data, copying and sharing and altering our federal government's most sensitive data that's being held now. We have no idea what's happening to that data. We should be very alarmed by what's happening. There are now 72 million seniors in this country that are scared to death about whether their Social Security is going to come next month. There are tens of millions more wondering whether they're going to have health insurance, that they can get their life-sustaining medication, whether people with disabilities are going to be able to get the supports that they need. This is the United States of America. How in the world can you not do your duty? This is America. We are not some shithole country. Do your goddamn job.
If you picked up a postcard, please don't forget to fill it out. Amy and I will be visiting Troy Balderson's office on Monday to read those to him. So please feel free, if you can't use the microphone yet, to state your opinion and your perspective.
I just have a brief issue that I think we need to emphasize. Cruelty to the immigrants is unbelievable. I used to say, it's so cruel that Jesus would be weeping, but maybe even Satan is weeping. It is that evil. I just can't believe that we're condoning it, but there should be outrage. Think of the Ohio families that came to Springfield legally. They were allowed in. The families settled. They're integrated into the community. They're in the schools. The children, that's their home. We're going to reclassify them and throw them out. And what? For what goal? Just evil? Just anger? Where's the support from our Ohio peoples trying to stop this cruelty towards these folks? It's a very big concern of mine.
I just want to answer your question about where the support is. And I would say this, and I want to say it very clearly. I am not a partisan hack. A safe seat is a bad seat. Gerrymandering damns us all. There are some great people in our Ohio offices, some great ones, but their voices are never heard. I know for a fact that sometimes the bills that are coming up for a vote, the Ohio Senate members, the Ohio House members that are on the Democratic side of the ticket, they don't even get to see them until sometimes the day they're supposed to vote on them. They come out of committee and just roll right through. Matt Huffman wants to hide behind people not knowing who he is. Matt Huffman is the Speaker of the Ohio House. And Ohioans need to pay attention to who they're voting for. And I'll tell you, it's hard to say because everything seems so MAGA right now on the Republican side of the universe. But there are still good Republicans in offices that have always just identified as regular old conservatives who care about the financial security and whatever, I don't even know the damn difference sometimes because some things that have been politicized just are simply human values, right? They're not left, they're not right, they're just like, hey, your kid has cancer, we should help them. Hey, your kid is hungry, we should feed them. When the hell does loving your neighbor become political? So, yeah, I'm still there with you. To answer your question is, the people who care have no power. And the people who can help you simply won't. Because there's no profit in it. Money.